and what's temporary. We talked about just here the crux of the whole matter of the temporariness of the body and the permanence of the soul. Just like lines drawn on the sand that are washed away by the waves. And in the same way, if all the happiness is founded on what's going to be washed away, even that happiness could be washed away. Just like an apple rots away, we go through the stages of life, and everything we do for our body, everything we do day, night, give it so much, but eventually our body won't do the same for us, and it won't come with us. Anitya bhavana, the impermanence of things in this world. There's once a beggar, a poor man, and he went to a king's palace. And after many, many days, he had the nicest meal he'd had in a long time, and he fell asleep. He fell asleep and he had a dream. And what was in that dream? He dreamt that he was the emperor. He had luxury, he had so many queens, he had everything he could dream of. And as he was in this sweet dream, suddenly, and he woke up. And he saw the same tattered clothes, the same needing to beg day after day. And in the same way, one day, according to the philosophy, we're all going to wake up from this life, from this dream, and only our good deeds will follow us in the morning when we wake up. Ups and downs, just like a roller coaster, occur in life, always. And the essence of these bhavanas, these philosophies, is to remain centered. That any situation can arise in life, not just in spiritual terms, but in work, in relationships, in anything, to be centered and not be prone to these ups and downs that constantly we're a slave to for our happiness. Almost at the equator there's no shadow, and in the same way, when we're centered, there's not a shadow in the rest of the world and not a shadow in our own conscious, because nothing affects us, because we're so pure and centered in life. And you go to the equator and you'll see there's no shadow at the equator. For the Kenyans, probably. The whole science of meditation, chakras, philosophy draws on all of this, but how centering all of this, and it's one of the tools, one of the manifestations from some branches. States of mind, another word of it is called leshas. That's another tool. How can we observe where our mind goes, what it does? And knowing the enemy helps us to control it, and knowing the friend helps us to invite them around. A very famous Jain concept of anekanta is all about being centered and seeing things from many, many different points of view. This is the famous story of the 6 blind men and the elephant, which if you Google it, it'll come up, the whole story. But essentially, it's the antidote to a lot of the wars that are happening around the world now, because of faith, because of other things. In our philosophy, we have that treasure, the answer to all of these, and that's the principle of anekanta. Another bhavana is the bhavana of bodhi durlabh, and we talked a bit about all those different states, that cat, that zebra, that lion, us, the couple, and according to the philosophy, we're constantly transmigrating between these 4 states of existence, of human, heaven, hell, and animal. And from these 8.4 million species, they say 84 lakh jivyoni mahi, very, very few are humans. How few are humans, and how few have the chance to go beyond the 70% of the world population that are struggling to even have food to eat? How many of them is that? Very, very rare. How rare? There's many, many illustrations in the scriptures. And one illustration is here. And it's an old lady, like a bar. This bar can't see very well. And she's looking for a needle in a haystack. And it's easier for the bar to find the needle in the haystack than it is to regain that path of that human life. Or someone goes to the seashore and they have a nut and a bolt, and they throw the nut with one direction all the way there and the bolt the other way. And by the random action of the waves, for that nut and bolt to meet and for the nut to screw into the bolt, that will happen sooner. But the philosophy says to regain that human birth is even harder than that. And those are the concepts of the bhavnas. Now, one thing with the bhavnas to remember is if they're taken in isolation, they can lead to depression. Because the impermanence of all of bhavnas is something to look up and to read into. It's always important to not only look at them, but to look at what's permanent in contrast to what's impermanent. "14 stages of spiritual development goes into this, and it's another tool and another aspect of the philosophy. Rituals. Pratikaman, Samaik. Many have heard of these things within certain branches of Jainism. Samaik is essentially that aparigraha that we saw earlier of the saints giving up everything, not being affected by greed, like that example. Samaik is for 48 minutes living the life of that saint that we cannot do for life, but we can do it for that short period. Pratikaman is repenting, going over, and repentance is a form of purification because repentance only occurs because of humility. So that's another tool in the Jain faith. Prayer, learning from the lives of teachers, saints, philosophers, and appreciating virtues. And what's the concept of God in Jainism? The concept of God is as a leader God that shows a path for us to follow. Jo hue mujhe shakti aisi sabhi jeev karu shasan rasi. It's not a normal compassion, it's an ultimate compassion that we cannot comprehend. But how does a Tirthankara become a Tirthankara? When they have that compassion that not just my family, my friends, but if I have the strength, if I have the power, I want to do something, the power and the strength to give ultimate, infinite happiness to every life form. And that is illustrated by that picture. And that's devotion, faith. And that's another tool. If you praise someone or something enough, you'll become like that someone or something. Prayer, devotion. We've talked a little bit about karma already, and that path. We cannot go into detail about that now, but there are other courses, workshops that we have advertised on our website that will go into these things. But we've talked about the bank, and there's many different types of karma, and I'm not going to talk about these slides, but I just wanted to have them just to show a little bit about the depth of our philosophy, that there's so much we can go into. These are different forms, different types of karma. Like a painter paints a picture or a painting, so one karma paints our form. And this is the ringleader of all the karmas, called Mohaniya. And that misidentification of the body and the soul we talked about earlier, according to the philosophy, a lot of that is driven by this karma that is the ringleader of all the others. Throughout this talk, if we've said anything that's misrepresented the faith, that's gone against any branch, anything, please feel free to let me know. And if anything's been misrepresented or said wrong, we try to do it.